Now Rimuru had clearly done away with all reason in his rage. That fact made Testarossa uneasy. He felt like something bad was about to happen. Like Lidora said on the bridge, the best forces of the Empire were all assembled here. There was no sign of Gradim or his forces, but realistically speaking, they couldn't expect any more reinforcements. They had failed to overwhelm Rimuru's forces. The Demon Lord was never an opponent to take lightly, something made clear by the current situation. So Testarossa remained on guard, his nerves on edge, ready to protect the Emperor at a moment's notice. The other knights in Marco were also having trouble maintaining their composure, so thrown as they were by this situation. The absolute power of Velgrynd was hard to fathom, even for people as powerful as them, and now Velgrynd had all but admitted that Rimuru was equal to her. It'd be impossible not to let that disturb you. Thus both sides were stunned and surprised, in opposite ways. It was Velgrynd who broke the silence first. So it's a showdown, then. Fine, then. We'll defeat them and use them as bargaining chips to make the Demon Lord Rimuru bend to us. Is that all right with you? Very well. All of you, prove your powers to me. Yes, your majesty. As soon as Lidora made the decision, the Imperial Knights' agitation vanished from their faces. There was power in his voice, the kind that put these stout warriors' hearts at ease. Yes. Victory is assured, I promise you. Velgrynd flashed a fierce smile, her beautiful yet terrifying countenance, foreshadowing the horrors of the battle to come. With that, Velgrynd spread her arms out and held them up to the sky. Then she activated what were called the 8 Impervious gates. Each of them appeared in midair, lined up in the center between both sides of the war, and shrank down to the point where just one person could go through them at a time. This flagship, Velgrynd explained, has now been isolated inside an alternate dimension of my own creation. If you want to escape, you will have to destroy all 8 of these gates. Not counting Lidora, there were 8 Imperials left on the airship. This meant that each one of them had a gate to guard. What happens if we all go into one gate? What a funny thing to say. You're free to try it, but once you're all inside a gate, only the person who kills its guardian is allowed to enter the next gate. If she was telling the truth, it meant that if everyone piled into one gate, only one person would be left to challenge the next one. They had to break through all 8 to escape, so that was too risky a choice to take. I see. So the smart thing would be all of us to charge into the last gate remaining instead. Very good. You're a smart one, aren't you? Yes, if you're going to challenge the gate I will guard, that would be the right thing to do. Velgrynd smiled at Benimera's suggestion. She must have assumed he would reach that conclusion. But as confident as she was about her chances, she didn't see any problems with explaining all of this at the beginning. Of course, since I've set up this dimension in advance with these set conditions, I can keep it maintained at very low magical cost. You can either escape nor touch Lidora without breaking through all the gates. Or did you want to go all out here instead? Either way is fine by me. The 8 Impervious gates put the defenders at a disadvantage. Since they knew exactly who would be guarding each gate, there was a risk that the raiders would plan their approach in advance, working out countermeasures for each guardian. But if they resorted to all-out warfare instead, even Lidora could be at risk, and Velgrynd really wanted to avoid that. What's more, Velgrynd wanted to keep Rimuru's soldiers banished in an alternate dimension as they farted out. She was willing to take a slight disadvantage for that. Alright. We'll accept your challenge. Benimera didn't hesitate to respond. Hearing him, Velgrynd was now assured of her victory. Unless I somehow lose, there is no breaking out of this dimension. There is simply no way for us to lose. Velgrynd was sure she could beat the enemy, even if they all charged her at once. That's why she went with these gates, what she thought was the safest strategy for them. Benimera fully understood her intentions, but there was no way to avoid combat with Velgrynd here anyway, so he opted for the path they'd have the best chance of winning with. So, with both parties in agreement, the side of this final battle was decided. One by one, the Imperials disappeared into the gates before Benimera and his team. Then Velgrynd, the last one remaining, exchanged a light embrace with Lidora before going through her gate. The gates then slowly began moving, encircling themselves around Benimera and the rest. But it wasn't like they didn't know who went into which gate. Only a fool would fail to keep track of that. It's such a coward move, isn't it? Rearranging them like this so we don't know who's guarding what. Shion was that exact sort of fool. We're fine. I remember them. Weren't you paying attention? Benimera thought. Now he began to understand the pain she put Diablo through. Hee hee. What a fun little diversion. If you emerge victorious, I will grant you the honor of fighting me then. Lidora, protected by the laws of this other dimension, relaxed in his comfortable seat as he spoke. He never doubted Velgrynd's victory for a moment. Judging by his demeanor, he saw this battle as little more than light entertainment. We'll see, won't we? You never know what can happen in battle. But we're gonna show you that there's some things we'll never yield to. Benimera looked around at his companions, figuring out who should be put in charge of whom. But one person was too impatient to wait for his decision. It was Shion. Well, I think I've been putting up with things for far too long. I've had enough. Whoa. Hey. Sir Rimuru told us to kill our enemy down to the last individual. What's there to worry about? Let's just get these taken care of. Have you ever worried about anything your whole life? Benimaru almost said out loud. He couldn't have his troops acting out of line like this, but before he had time to stop her, Shion kicked open the door to a gate and stepped inside. Well, whatever. I don't know whether she meant to do that or not, but I'd say she picked a perfect opponent for herself anyway. Shion, despite her less than commendable methods, had a knack for achieving optimal results. She wasn't exactly on her best behavior that day, but she still chose the door that matched Benimaru's intentions. That left 7 more doors. One contained Velgrynd, and they'd be tackling that one last. So who'd be the right person to deal with whom? If I could, Baron began. What? Ultima replied with more than a hint of tension in her voice. To tell the truth, I have not yet settled my score with Marco. The way I am now, I believe I would absolutely win over him. It was a standard strategy: start with an opponent you know you can beat. Benimaru saw the wisdom in that, and any victory would be one step closer to getting out of here, so he rapidly granted his permission. Alright. You can take on Marco, then. Very good. If that's what you want, Benimaru, I have no complaints. Ultima seemed calmer now as well. Varen's partner was now chosen. Ajera, witnessing this exchange, was the next one to speak. May I ask a favor as well? Ajera, right. What is it? Well, I too have an opponent I have yet to settle the score with, although it is nothing on the level of a deep-seated grudge or the like. I would like to be paired with him, if at all possible. Who is that? The man called Kondo. He's a fighter from the same school as myself, and as a pure swordsman, I cannot ignore him. Oh? It sounded like a pretty deep-seated grudge to Benimaru. He was curious about Ajera's fighting style, and he knew that Hakuro had taken a liking to him. So he was inclined to give him the okay, but there was one little problem. Are you confident you can beat him, then? If Ajera lost, after all, this whole thing was rather pointless, and in Benimaru's view, Lieutenant Kondo was a serious handful. Even Rimuru was wary of him. He was sure Ajera would have a tough time. Well, Ajera paused. As a swordsman, he believed he would have no regrets losing to someone like Kondo, but that would fly in the face of Rimuru's orders. Even he understood how selfish this request was, but suddenly, he found a supporter. Alright, Ajera. It's rare for you to ever ask for anything. Why don't I help you out? It was Carrere, the demon Ajera served, sounding as dignified as she could. Benimaru nodded. No need to ask if she could beat him. I'm not sure, he said, if even I could defeat Kondo. So I'm going to ask you not to lose, but at least try not to die. Carrere gave this a loud laugh. Of course not. Besides, why don't we make this a test for Ajera? We have to see if winning really will open up the next gate. Best to conduct this experiment against our weakest opponent, I'd say. I agree. Shion's already gone, but there's no point in this strategy if you can't fight again after you win. Very true. It might be that only certain people will qualify to take on Lady Velgrynd, but she's a proud woman, so I don't think she would lie about that. Benimaru had naturally considered this possibility. He had been thinking of having Shion try it out when she got back, but if Ajera's group wanted to first, there was no reason to stop them. Okay. So how will you approach this? I'll make Ajera the main fighter and have Esprit join him as an assistant. That'll show us whether only the person who scored the kill can take on the next challenge. Take Zonda along with you, too. He's a healing specialist, so he won't be that much use against stronger opponents. Zonda was no weakling by any means, but he faced an uphill battle against a same-class foe. If he was barred from the next challenge, Ultima didn't see that as a big problem. No need to risk his neck in a dangerous fight if he could just stay here and heal allies coming back from their gates. With that in mind, nobody voiced any opposition. Alright. Ajera, Esprit, and Zonda, you three will be tackling this gate. Benimaru pointed out a gate that one of the 4 Imperial Knights went into the large spear-toting man who called Benimaru a puny little worm. Benimaru had entertained the thought of choking the life out of him with his own 2 hands, but decided to give this choice role over to Ajera instead. Very well. We won't let you down. Victory will be ours, I promise you. So the 3 of them went through the gate toward their battle. 2 gates were now being attempted. The rest of the group stayed there, waiting for Benimaru to decide where to dispatch them. We'll decide who will stage the next attack once Ajera's group returns. The gate Velgrynd was guarding would come later. Kondo's opponent would be Carrere, and Marco would be taken by Varen. That left Amrata and 2 out of the 4 knights. By my assessment, the head of the Imperial Knights looked like the toughest to me. I would like to take him, if I could. No disagreement there. I had the same impression myself. Okay, can I take the Damrata guy, then? Fine by me. I already have my opponent selected. Damrata and the remaining knights looked about equally as powerful in Benimaru's mind. He had no complaints about this. Is that good with you, Zoe? It is. That leaves the dual blade wielding knight. I think I match up well with him, so I have no problems with that. Good. It's settled then. Benimaru fell silent for a moment. I have to say, he added awkwardly, this is troublesome for me. What's wrong? Zoe asked. They never gave their names, Benimaru replied, scratching his cheek. So I don't even know what to call our opponents. It's not a big problem, since I know who's behind each gate anyway, but... Ah, yes, that was a blind spot for us. Well, nothing to worry about. All you really need to know is the name of the person you kill anyway. The people listening to their conversation agreed. Names took on particularly important meaning to monsters, but there wasn't much point worrying about their opponents' monikers. Besides, they're enemies.